Sigal Music Museum proudly presents Sigal Living Presence, bringing back some of the finest keyboards in the Sigal collection, spanning over 350 years of craftsmanship, and all able to be played and enjoyed today. Your tour begins with a small square piano made by John Broadwood in 1787, during the first decade of Broadwood piano manufacturing. It found a home in the far southwest of England in Penzance, where it spent the next 215 years, first as a piano and then as a lady's dressing table. When it was bought, a thin shelf of cosmetics had built up under the lid, tracing the dressing history of several women of the family. It required minimal restoration and is among our finest square pianos today. It is flanked by a grand piano by John Broadwood and Son of 1805, the type of piano mentioned frequently by Jane Austen in her books such as Sense and Sensibility as the property of a wealthy character of the book. It possesses a fine voice today and was recently used by the pianist Charles Metz for a concert at the museum. The small keyboard in between the Broadwoods is a fine clavichord, made in Spain about 1780, and one of two that survive by the maker, whose name is not yet known. Although it has a tiny voice, the dynamic range is still very large, and it also was used in recent concerts here at Sigal. We then encounter three magnificent harpsichords, made in France, Italy, and England. The French harpsichord is by the great master builder Pascal Tascan, who was the largest harpsichord maker in France at his peak. This is an early Tascan, made in 1769, and clearly displays his ambition to make his name in the world. It is a double manual in a chinoiserie decoration scheme, which had become popular as trade with Asia opened up in the mid-18th century. It is so fine an instrument that it has been selected for use in over a dozen recording sessions by various artists while it was in part of Marlowe Sigal's private collection, and continues in use today. The extraordinary Italian harpsichord was likely made in Bologna, and a maker is currently being researched for a possible attribution. It was in the same family in Rome for over 300 years, and although it required a significant restoration effort to bring it back to life, the work was done by one of the best restorers in America, and it is returned to us with a voice much like it would have always had. The last harpsichord is perhaps the most historically important instrument in the museum. It was made by Jacob Kirkman in 1761 and selected by King George III as a wedding present for his new bride Charlotte, who had come from Mecklenburg, Germany to marry George. Just 3 years later, the 8-year-old Wolfgang Mozart and his sister Maria Anna Mozart, nicknamed Nannerl, who were both child prodigies, were brought to the English court by their father. They performed for the king and queen and the court, and were so well received as to be brought back twice more. Although the event did not generate an immediate job for Wolfgang, it contributed to his reputation. Across the room we find the Robert Nuns and Clark American Square Piano, made in 1834 and brought through Charleston to Fairfield County, South Carolina, as a wedding and birthday present for Eliza Lyles, who was just turning 18 at the time. It narrowly survived the Civil War, escaping destruction at the hands of Union soldiers when Eliza begged to play it and sing for them, perhaps for the last time, and so charming the soldiers that they left the family in peace. The piano was then considered something of a miracle in the family, and comes to us today almost as it was in 1834, never restored and not needing such work. An Erard grand piano of 1863 embodies the very best of piano making in the middle of the 19th century, with a burl walnut case in immaculate condition, and a sound that retains a little of early character, though well developed in the middle and lower range. It is paired with a Broadwood piano of 1845, a very different instrument from the 1805 Broadwood we first encountered. The intervening 40 years have seen dramatic changes to the piano in terms of size and sonic character, and this piano represents the aesthetic that Chopin would have known and embraced in his lifetime. In fact, Chopin played this very instrument in the spring of 1848 when he came to London and did a series of morning concerts for wealthy benefactors. It is the same model he later toured with in England, and so has a double connection with the artist. We next encounter the 1784 Stein grand piano, made by Andre Stein with assistance from his daughter Nanette in Augsburg, Germany. Stein was the inventor of the Viennese piano as we know it today. With Vienna as the musical capital of Europe, Stein's designs and ideas caught on at once and were copied by all the Viennese builders, making it a very recognizable type of piano today. Everything Mozart ever wrote for piano fits nicely on this Stein and sounds remarkable as well. The World's Fair of 1939 was an opportunity for America to show off everything that was new and exciting, and the Art Deco designed story-tone upright piano, voiced by RCA, featured an all-electronic magnetic pickup system that replaced the usual soundboard and was truly innovative. Our piano was sold at that World's Fair in 1939 and taken to California before World War II broke out. It is all original and plays well even today. It even features a radio and phonograph in the bench, perhaps to play along with as you sat on the piano. Our last stop on the first floor is to admire a harpsichord not from the distant past, but from the 21st century. Made in 2003 by the noted builder Richard Kingston in North Carolina as a special commission from Elaine Finaro, this harpsichord was intended as a vehicle for hearing the harpsichord make new music from recently commissioned composers through the celebrated Alienor competition. It is decorated by artist Lisa Creed of Durham, North Carolina, who painted the lid with an abstract representation which flows beyond its boundaries onto the case. On the left side of the lid is an icon representing the composer's score and the performer's realization with the resultant emanations of sound. Sigal Living Presence will remain the focus of the first floor for years to come, with many of these instruments being featured in period-specific concerts.